Hey guys, Thomas Cecilia Jr. here, aka Mustached Tom, here to review the movie No Exit. If you end up enjoying this full review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my Discord server, the other to my Patreon page, third to my PayPal. Any donations are greatly appreciated, help support the channel, and help support me. And reminder of the shilling will be retold at the end of the review. So with that said, let's get into the movie No Exit. So, I didn't see any trailers for this, I just sort of came across it. So, definitely a smaller movie in scope, based off of what I've seen. This was some sort of thriller movie. In the events of it, we start in a rehab session. We follow here one character named Darby and another named Jade, both of which are there for reasons of the taking of drugs and getting clean. So, Darby gets a call about her mother being in a situation. She stretches out that she wants to communicate out to that, but is not left much choice in how the situation is handled. Thus, she's a bit upset. So she goes to her friend, the one who is sort of like bantering with her, I guess is a better way to put it. And sort of threatens to get her phone removed if she does not play along with her little escape plan. So she takes a bunch of materials like a screwdriver and a few other, like a screw and all these other little objects, and she runs towards the exit of the building, and that is where we see the name of the movie called No Exit appear. So we cut back to see her hot wiring one of the inmates, or one of the hospital caretakers, or whatever you want to refer to them as, car, and drives off. She gets texted by her sister that, not to come back, as the situation would probably only get worse. We cut to a very brief sort of vision of her as she heads out in the snowy winter, and in this vision she sees herself dead. When she is awoken, she's awoken by a cop who tells her that the roads are closed and that she either needs to go back or head towards a visitor center. So, generally helpful cop is there to be helpful and reemerges near the end of the movie as well. So, she ends up deciding to move forward towards this little area that she was told about. And once she makes her way inside, she wonders about the restroom. She sees it is blocked off, so she proceeds to desperately use the men's room, and throughout it she's trying to see if her texts are going through, and it would turn out that the connection as of currently isn't necessarily great. As she looks around, we see four other individuals. One guy who's currently sleeping, an older woman, a taller black man, and a good-looking man, I guess is a descriptor, if I were to just give a brief overview of them. However, there's no Wi-Fi as of current state, as we are led to see. It is also worth pointing out, or at least I noticed it, the tall black man is the man from the Allstate commercials. He has a very recognizable voice, if anything else. So, I caught it relatively from the moment he started speaking. I was like, oh, it's that guy again. Seen him in another movie before, so he's back in it, I guess. Anyway, so we see as our main character heads back outside, seeing as he said that there was some sort of bar or something, and eventually overhears a young girl screaming. So she checks this van that is nearby. She tries to get in and is unable to, so she takes a picture of the plate number, and she sees that one of the people are looking out at her, but she sort of hides it through making her way back, as if she was still searching through her phone to look for a bar. So she's trying to play it off, essentially. So she tries to take a moment when she heads back inside to call the police, but of course, as I mentioned, and as it's made very relevant, the bar is, of course, still really poor. So she takes a weapon. I forget what weapon she takes. I think it was like a screwdriver or something. The blonde woman, as they begin introducing themselves, is named Sandy. The Allstate man is Ed. There was a music guy in the corner named Lars, and the handsome-looking guy named Ash. So, Lars brings up a card game as they're trying to pass by the time during the snowstorm, so they decide to play the card game Bullshit, which is probably pretty in tone with the rest of the movie, as being able to detect lies from people is pretty evident, at least relative to this. So they start playing the game, as she starts to try to figure out where everyone's from, the main character Darby. So she's immediately trying to gauge who is responsible for the young girl in the car. Ed, through their game, is able to pretty easily detect bullshit through the game, more or less, through Lars. So she gets to the final location that she was trying to draw out, and gets immediately suspicious of Lars as one of the suspects potentially behind the kidnapped girl. So she moves away once more, a third time, now trying to call 911. Still no good. And she even tries to send the image she took a picture of, but the image fails to go through. So she sneaks outside and kind of makes her way back through. As she gets inside the vehicle, we see that Lars, in a few minutes, is revealed to be one of the thieves. Now, I will point this out. This isn't, at least when I saw the description of it, it wasn't classified as a mystery, it was classified as a thriller. So, the reveal of this actually doesn't surprise me anymore, because the point of a mystery, in terms of genre, is to figure out whodunit by the end of the movie, typically. And to, sort of breadcrumb information to let people figure it out. But here, that is not the intention. The intention is to know exactly who it is, and still have the character figure that out as well, pretty early on, and still try to overcome the circumstances, seeing that he has a gun and she does not. We learn that the young girl's name is Jay, or Jade. I think it's Jay, but whichever. as Darby makes a promise that she will indeed get her out of this situation. But now it is not the best conceivable time. Unfortunately, Lars is a bit more perceptive as he sees her footprints, so he's already knowing that she's checking in on the girl every so often. So Ash checks in on Derby on the other side of the restroom. She pulls him in and lures him into a kiss before Lars tries to gauge the info to the, whatever. But she quickly tells when Lars is out of the room, she tells him the entire truth about Lars being responsible. So she brings up that he also has a gun. She walks out. And tries to play it off as much as she can conceivably tell. So he tells her a plan to head back out while he has a weapon of his own, one of those nail guns. So she walks out back to the van, knowing that he will proceed, Lars will, only to find out when she heads back in there that Ash is also in on this kidnapping. So Ash takes the gun, and she is no longer in the van at this point in time. But he manages to catch up to her and hold her at gunpoint, and says that, tries to get under her skin, using that as leverage to, keep her quiet for the time being, and trying to figure out the situation as, at least as of currently, their current objective isn't to necessarily kill anybody, but to try to keep the secret that they have a kidnapped girl under wraps. So Ed walks outside, and because he's starting to get a little bit suspicious of what's going on now, so he signals to Sandy to move to the back as he kind of continues to look out there. Meanwhile, Ash and Lars, coming back in, sit with Ed when he makes his way back inside. As the five of them are in the same spot, Lars spots the kid getting ready to leave, because when Darby was in the car, I believe the second time, she left the tool behind for her to help herself out. So, Lars tries to rush out an exit and does so somehow successfully. Meanwhile, Ed walks around. Sorry, in my notes. Anyway, so Ash also does the other way as they are, trying to get the girl now. Darby attempts to grab or attack Ash, but is immediately stopped. Darby manages in the scuffle to get their keys, and the three of them, using her as bait, try to find the girl, who is currently outside still. So she flashes the light at Ash and then stumbles forward, and on her way down she hits two trees head first, which under normal circumstances would probably either kill someone or at better than death, is still be unconscious, but somehow she is still conscious even after getting hit twice in the head through rolling and hitting the tree head first. That's pretty damn impressive, if not very convenient for everything that happens from that point onward. So Ed, or kind of getting wary of the whole situation, heads back outside and finds the girl eventually, as he hears one of the gunshots out there. So he rushes her back inside. Meanwhile, since Darby is still, conscious, she's able to throw an object in another location to get both of Ash and Lars out of the immediate vicinity, which allows her to get all the way back inside. So she heads back inside. And Darby explains everything clearly now that she has an opportunity to, now that the other two aren't currently in their position. So Ash calls out as he makes his way back. And they are discussing what their plans are. So they clearly want the girl, but she needs medication because of some whatever medication thing she got going on in the movie. I forget what it is. And they use Darby's knowledge that she had grabbed the keys earlier. The keys for the medication is the proposition they put forth. Ash realizing he no longer has the keys. So Darby hid the keys, and Ash starts beginning to count down as he begins to light, or he placed oil on the front of the building that they're lodged in at. And as Jade awakens, as she looks up, she looks at the woman named Miss Laurie, or I believe her name was Sandy. Apparently she knew this young girl, and in fact she was investigated as she was left as a house cleaner for her, and knew that the kidnapping happened and let it happen and let it play out, as she was apparently also in the cut-in of this heist situation. So Sandy switches sides, attacking Darby in this instance. And she is exclusively in it for the money, nothing else. Ash, having now been tired of all of this shenanigans, shoots Ed down. She shoots Sandy as well, because she also tries to initiate an attack of sorts, and is also promptly killed shortly after. He doesn't kill Darby, instead stables her hand to the wall with the nail gun he still possesses, instead of, just killing her also. She twists her hand very slightly, but is unable to escape at the current position she is in. Meanwhile, Lars is freaking out, because again, as I mentioned earlier, their plan was never to essentially kill, and now Ash has gone and killed two of the people there. So Darby calls out to Jade to tell her get the hammer that is also conveniently placed at just, foot length away beyond where she can simply grab it. So she does. The girl slowly moves closer to her. Meanwhile, get this, Ash gets an update on the phone that he took from her, Darby's phone. I don't know how that happened. The phones throughout the entire movies has seemingly had low bar, and suddenly they are able to update. The storm was still happening, so I'm not sure how, that's probably one of the more convenient things that happens in this movie in terms of getting the text out that she sent, and somehow it went through even though he deleted it. Not sure how that works either, but okay. So, Darby caves into the threat of Ash getting ready to attack Jade, the young girl. So, as we see this, we cut away to see the police car moving into that location. As Darby proceeds to tell Jade to turn off the lights, as she has some sort of plan. Jade starts to go through with it and tries to distract Lars as much as conceivably possible. So, she sniffs up the drugs that she picked up at some point in the movie. As Jade turns out the lights, Darby proceeds to take the nail out with the hammer, and she, the young girl is trying to avoid getting captured. Meanwhile, Ash got the location of the keys, looks for the keys, finds them. Meanwhile, Darby, now free, hits down Lars with the hammer that she was provided with. But Ash moves in from the front, still having the nail gun on hand. Darby, using the gun she now possesses, holds Lars hostage. Jade, the young girl, proceeds to tackle Ash, making him misfire and hit Lars directly in the head. So Lars drops down, or he has one of those moments where you get hit by something and sort of like awaken. But, it does inevitably lead to his death as he bleeds out significantly from it. And from the head, the hammer shot to the head as well, contributing to that fact. So, Lars does indeed drop dead, and Ash is left worse for wear. Darby proceeds to get in her car, bringing the girl with her, and trying to escape through that. Ash uses his nail gun to fire away at the car. It hits successfully, and the car crashes into some sort of lamp post or something along those lines. Ash heads back to see the damage that has been done, and proceeds to light up and burn the location down, as he's sort of sick and done with this whole song and dance. However, this also gives conveniently Darby enough time to awaken, as the cop also arrives on the scene. Ash tries to play it off as like, oh, this fire happened and these people are in an accident. The cop is just, in a general state of, I don't know what's going on, you need to stay put. So they kind of downplay the cop here, and it's sort of at an inconvenient time throughout most everyone else too. But this little distraction allows Darby to shoot at Ash, and the cop seeing this is also too distracted, and Ash, even after being fired at, shoots the cop. Down to the ground. Ash runs out of bullets from the gun as he tries to pull the trigger on Darby, so another convenience. He could simply still use the nail gun, unless that also clipped down, but we clearly see that is not the case, as Ash walks up to the cop and proceeds to empty out the nail gun on the cop instead of saving up. So Ash proceeds to run out that option, grabs the cop's gun, and teases Darby with one of the methods he did earlier, using the whole thing about her dad that she mentions pretty early on, the first time around when they are talking, and she already knew of his little intentions. But this gives her just the opportunity to screwdrive his neck when he was gloating about how her father died, instead of finishing the job any point earlier, which she could have simply done. So, this allows Jade, who's kind of been knocked out for however long she was knocked out for, to call out to, or attempt to call out for Darby. Darby has been crawling out towards the radio and manages to get to the cop, pulls out his radio and call out for help. We cut forward, I should say, to Darby being, I guess, fully healed after however many months or whatever passed by. Actually, no, it says 48 days, so it's like a month and a few days, if anything. Which I suppose is pretty incredible, considering she got shot in the stomach, so to recover that quickly, whew, that's some pretty sick healing factor or something, I don't know. I don't know how fast recovery of such a shot would, do. But the movie ends with Darby reuniting with her sister, and the movie sort of just ends, and we don't really know what happened to the girl, but I don't know. It doesn't really show, so I shrug. And that was the movie No Exit. So, as it's pretty evident, there are quite a few conveniences to get us to the point of the end of the movie. And I do think that ultimately those little pretty strong conveniences hold the movie back from a pretty solid experience, all things considered. In terms of a thriller, yeah, it fits under that. In terms of like the thrill of the tension that is building from, her situation of being in this small area, knowing the knowledge that she knows, but being ill-equipped to deal with it properly, and how she sort of navigates around that being the main character I'm referring to. But she does have some plot armor on her side. There's some, again, other conveniences that help her along the way, and other inconveniences for other things, such as the cop being there alone, which later, doesn't really help him, so that's inconvenient for the cop, to not have any backup. So, yeah, quite a few issues here and there. In terms of, this definitely seems like a smaller movie scope, as the entire cast consists primarily of 6 people in total, and most of the movie takes place in a single location. So, a pretty small scope movie in the grand scheme of things. But if I were to, look at it objectively, I would probably still give it a 6 out of 10 for all of those conveniences. And I'd probably lean a little bit closer to a 5 than even a solid 7, but there are just too many conveniences, so I'd probably still land at a 6, but on, the lower, pushing towards a 5. But, that is my full review of No Exit. So with that being said, if you ended up enjoying it, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. Why not head over to my Discord, second to my Patreon, third to my PayPal. Any donations are greatly appreciated. It helps support the channel, can make me review specific movies or play specific Let's Plays in totality, which also helps support the channel and keep it going, as well as myself. So with all that said, until next time everyone, bye-bye!